2, 1.
Welcome to Antimatters. Hello everyone, been a while. I hope you've all had a good Christmas and New Year's. So up today we have the natural multi-species tank, which has the Formica fusca, Myrmica rubra and Tetramorium caespitum, and some acorn ants somewhere in there. Things have been doing really well with the tank, and all of the plant life is thriving, and all of the ants also seem to be thriving. However, there has been problems. It wasn't the spiders, however, that were causing issues. Check out this. This here is a dead woodlouse, which I spotted the other day, and look at this weird worm thing on it. I don't actually think the weird worm thing killed the woodlouse. I think this is just what they feed on, is like dead insects and stuff. But we've got some new disgusting, sorry if you're like sensitive here because this is disgusting. These worms are from Australia and they're invasive to the UK, and I managed to accidentally acquire some whilst getting some rotten wood. I don't think these worms are actually too damaging to the kind of food web of the tank. They just eat kind of the dead stuff really, like the wood lice, but a little bit slower. But honestly I just can't stand looking at them, so what I decided to do was kind of start attacking their numbers, and I am now having a war of the worms. There's quite a few of them though, and they're absolutely minging. But yeah, as I said, they don't seem to be harming the kind of other animals in the tank. If you look under the apple, which I give them, just to kind of let it rot down and the wood lice and everything process it. But you see a few little caespitum running around there. The worms, luckily, don't seem to go too deep into the soil as well. So if I keep it kind of quite wet, they all seem to be pushed upwards, and I can pluck them off the surface or around the edges. I think they're absolutely disgusting, but I can quite happily pick them up with the tweezers now, which is just like an improvement from when I started. I must have fished at least 50 out there. I did start by chopping them up, and then I googled kind of what are these. To be fair, I googled first. And it was like, oh yeah, and I was like, how do they reproduce? And it was like, by fissioning, which is basically, if you chop them up, you've basically sped up their breeding and made, however many you cut them into, you've made that many more flatworms. They're a nightmare. So I stopped chopping them up after the first couple, and have begun tweezering and into salt water. For a little bit, I was quite worried that these worms might attack my natural worms, like the earthworms. However, after spotting this little bit of wood wiggling, I decided to pull it out, and it turned out that this worm wasn't an invasive worm, it was just a little baby earthworm. So I'm hoping the earthworms are doing okay, because I kind of need them. So let's get on to some other animals that aren't disgusting little worms. Spiders, yeah. Aside from tweezering out all of the worms that I could find, I decided what I needed to really do was basically clear out a lot of the plants so I could actually see the floor to pick them off it. And yeah, afterwards I was a little bit sad at how much plant life I'd left, but there was a few perks. I found this lovely little spider which I thought was cool. I didn't know he lived in there. The garlic snails were also still alive, which I was happy about, and the worms hadn't eaten any of them. After basically turning the tank upside down, some of the ants did seem to be a little bit stressed out. However, they were kind of reaping the rewards of it being cleaned, because a few wood lice, of which there are thousands now, actually got hurt and they took them home for dinner. They also, which I was quite, I don't know, I'm hoping they do this on the other worms, but they started hunting earthworms that had come up as well and been exposed. So fingers crossed the Myrmica rubra may be a little ally in my war against the ant, or war against the worms. If only they do the same thing to the other girls. Maybe they'll butcher them all if I get them a little bit hungry. It sounds cruel, I know, but if you had these in your tank, these disgusting little black worms, you'd want them. You'd probably want them out, unless you had a really strong stomach or something. What I also found funny was the woodlice seemed quite interested in having a nibble of the worm as well, but eventually one of the rubras was like, get away. And when they want them to get away, they basically just attack them. This is slightly sped up, but you see a little rubra riding around on its back for a bit. She's basically like, get away, stop trying to steal our food. The woodlice have actually become quite a good thing to watch. They're stupid and they get stuck on top of leaves and things like that. It's hilarious. After turning the tank over, I thought I'd give them a little tower as well, because it would stop the worms eating any of the food on the floor. But after putting the tower in, I noticed that loads of the ants were all piling up inside of it. I did wonder what was going on, but then I remembered my new phone. It may be rubbish at making like videos, it's not 8K anymore, but it does have infrared. And I noticed all the heat gradients throughout the tank. There's quite a lot of heat coming off the light. And the taller areas, especially like the tower and the tops of the wood in the background, are quite nice and warm. Whilst I was taking out all the vegetation, I did knock the Myrmica rubra's little bit of wood that they live in. And I think they've decided to move a little bit. And I got a glimpse of these two girls here. Both ants are absolutely perfectly fine, even though the one being carried stays dead still a lot of the time. But they've decided that, well, the old nest, it was just a little bit too dangerous, and this girl obviously didn't want to leave or something, so she's being dragged over to one of their spare nests that they've got in another part of the tank. She's not very good at it though, but I could just watch them for hours. Here she goes. Oh, nearly dropped her. Bam! She's like just smashing her head into the wood and everything, and it's like, oh. So here's when another worker turns up as well, and check out this other worker. She's like, this ant here, she's a little bit panicked maybe, so she comes and has a look, and you can hear her like, what on earth is going on here? Excuse me, what are you doing? And he's, oh crap, been caught. Oh, I wasn't doing nothing. No, we weren't doing nothing. Wasn't dragging her around. Myrmica rubra certainly do have the best social lives though, out of all ants, to be fair, I think. That's why they're my favourite species, to be fair, just because their social stuff is hilarious. Here's where I disturbed the nest though, and you can see there's quite a lot of them running around. They're all kind of a bit annoyed that someone's come along and basically cracked the bit of wood they live in. That's when the Formica fusca decided, do you know, it's a great time, now all of the rubras are out, we can go and run over the top of their nest. I was watching and I thought, oh no, this isn't going to end well. They get along quite well, these ants, but it's kind of no ant would accept another ant running across the top of their nest when it's just been disturbed. And I thought, oh, this is going to be trouble. But luckily the rubras had quietened down a little bit, there's only a few left out, and a fight did not happen. At this point, I do believe that these ants will get along till the end of time. Anyway, time for a meal after their big move. I decided to give them some mealworm, but got a uninvited guest. The rubras weren't too happy about it. It's quite amazing watching the slug wiggle out though for a little hole. And what did the slug do after eating all of the Myrmica rubra's protein? He decided it was time to go down onto the floor and annoy them some more. He crawled into their little hole. They got quite wound up, I think, the rubra. However, they didn't have enough force to do anything, but luckily for them, their woodlouse decided to step up and he flushed the slug back out. He seemed really interested in his sludge as well and kept eating it. So the rubra's doing absolutely brilliant. The fusca, they're booming as well. I totally was not expecting them to come out of hibernation. They currently reside in some of the wood that's along the back. I'm not sure what their nest looks like inside of the wood because I can't really see inside of it. But I do know they live inside because I've seen them coming out. I do believe though they may share this piece of wood with the Tetramorium caespitum, and her sisters are in that big hole underneath her saying, "Don't come in, the cuman's gonna watch, he's filming, you can't be good for him." So what does she do? Oh, actually, I'm not gonna go in the nest, I'm gonna go and hide up here. It's like, how dare he film us? I do believe the caespitum have tunnels all around, just below the surface, and yeah, they are the masters of the subterranean world. The rubra are masters of the surface, and the fusca are masters of the air. If you can call the fuscas master of anything. I love their look, but they're definitely lacking in the brains department. Here, they have a woodlice exoskeleton that has been shed, and they think, oh yeah, you know what, this would be great for dinner, so they're trying to drag it back. But even that's difficult for them. They do live on a steep slope, so they try to drag all their stuff up, but a lot of the time it falls back down. And also a lot of the time it won't fit through their door, which is basically the size of one of their gasters. A lot of the stuff that falls down to the floor is quickly consumed by the woodlice too. They'll pick it up and run away. They are sneaky. Some of the Formica fusca do seem to be having a hard time with the woodlice, and they're not as good at managing them like the rubra, so they do get a bit overwhelmed. They're not having as hard a time though as this little rubra worker here. This little rubra has some sort of brain damage, I believe. Her legs do seem to actually work fine, but they're just not getting the right signals. She's still trying though, and I think that's the important bit with the ants. As long as their sisters are still trying, the other ants will keep supporting the individual. Someone must be getting food for this girl anyway. So slightly off topic, don't look at the ants here, look at the little snail, and just underneath it there's that insect. So what we have here is a pseudo scorpion, which first time I've spotted one in my tank and actually managed to film it, and a baby little, I don't know if it's a garlic snail or a slightly of a snail that we have in the tank. That's the first time I'd ever seen the pseudo scorpions. So the tank is peaceful, but it isn't free from conflict. The caespitum and the formica fusca often have mini confrontations, and also sometimes attack each other, the fusca, if the caespitum are around, because they think they're being touched by a caespitum, but actually it's one of their sisters. But the caespitums are terrible. They'll grab the formica fusca by the antenna and tug them, which the formica fusca, they know how to fight, and they do get annoyed. And so quickly the formica fusca will curl up with the caespitum in its mouth and vinegar it in the face, which usually splits them up. These conflicts though, they'll pretty much always stay 1v1 though. Like, no other formica fusca and no other caespitum will get involved in this brawl. When there's sugar about though, they happen quite often. Nobody does seem to be harmed as well long term. Check out this little lady here. She's like, who the hell are you? What do you want? And she grabs one of them, but little does she know that she's just been distracted. With one caespitum in her jaws, the other one gets stuck in on the honey. This doesn't always end well though, because I do occasionally see the formica fusca with a few little caespitum bodies in their mouth. I'm not too worried about this though, because there's plenty of caespitum. So I'm quite happy that the formica fusca and rubra are very dominant and can tackle them, if you get what I mean. The fights go both ways as well. Here the formica fusca starts the fight, but as you'll see in a second, when this formica fusca gets back, what she's going to do is have a sniff of the caespitum, but she thinks, oh yeah, I'm just going to keep eating my honey. But along comes caespitum, and he lunges at her. He misses, but he started that time. The rubra and fusca though, they have no conflict at all. The formica fusca, they're so fast, so if a rubra like turns up, they'll literally just bang, and they're just gone. Get along like a house on fire though. In the wild, I found formica fusca nests within a few centimetres, if not completely connected to myrmica rubra nests before, which is quite amazing. If you like turn the right like stone over and stuff like that, or find leaf litter as well, a lot of the time they'll like nest under leaf litter, and if it's a sunny patch in the woods, there'll be fusca, there'll be rubra in the same pile of leaf litter. So check this out as well. After disturbing the girls and giving them a big feed, guess who decided to show herself as well a couple days later? I'm quite glad I chopped back all the foliage at this point, because I got to see one of the myrmica rubra queens. Here's a little caespitum as well. I love how peacefully the queen just basically walks over her, and there's no issues at all here. They get along like one giant big family. But oh, I'm so happy to see a nice rubra queen come out. There's no chance I'll ever see the formica fusca or the caespitum queen, but there are a few, I'm not sure how many I put in to be fair, rubra queens in here. There could be like 10 rubra queens to be fair. Hopefully she's not the only one though. Let's have a look at some of the other little inhabitants of this tank though. Around the back of the tank, which I never get to see, I was thankful to see some more worms. But I also saw this centipede. This one's quite big, and he's a really chunky lad. He's not the longest one though, he's probably like 2 inches long max. There's also loads of species of spiders now. We've got little blacky ones, little fat butt ones, that little yellow one from earlier. Here's this little one that actually eats the ants, which I think they've eaten the spider now though. Here is the impressively long, he's about 4 or 5 inches long, centipede as well. There's also these ungarlic snails, as I like to call them now. And there's plenty of the garlic snails too. I like the garlic snails, they're actually like bluer than they look in this most of the time as well, but this one seems quite translucent for some reason. I'm going to keep hunting those worms though. Any sign of wiggling leaves, and I flip them now. It has though gotten a bit better. I found that a lot of the time, it's not worms anymore, it's woodlice. So the plan with this tank now is to get all the plants to grow back and hopefully hammer all of the worms. I'd love to be able to take this tank to AntCon as well, because it'd be lovely to share, I think, the kind of view with everybody, and you can just look in here at any time and watch a little story unfolding between all the different species. Now that I've mentioned AntCon as well, I can't wait. Until next time, have a fabulous week. May your ants live long and prosper. Thanks for watching, and bye!